And we are live, guys. Welcome to the show of Staking Mondays today for a special episode of Staking Fridays, actually. My name is Mirko. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Staking Awards, and today it's my pleasure to interview Dan Rieker from the from Acala Network. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, how's it going?
Awesome, thanks. Great to have you on the show. Let's jump into some lightning round questions first. What was your first experience in crypto? How did you get started?
First ever interaction with crypto was actually in a class in 2013. I had a information security class, and we had one day. It was about like the dark web, Bitcoin, the Tor browser, and all that stuff. And it was kind of blew my mind. So I went home and like researched Bitcoin quite a bit and started studying it back then. I was still obviously young and in college, but then yeah, kind of kept my interest for all the time since then.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool coming from the very early roots of the crypto ecosystem. So besides Acala, of course, like what project in the crypto ecosystem are you a lot excited about?
I need to be better about looking more outside of the Polkadot ecosystem, to be honest. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on Polkadot. I think as far as like recent activity, yeah, I know like Solana, I'm always impressed with their, at least like what I do, marketing and BD, like they do a great job. Avalanche is also seeing a lot of growth, kind of similar to Polkadot in a way with their subnets. So I'm definitely interested in, I need to start learning more about the Avalanche tech, but those two ecosystems, I know Near has a lot going on. I mean, there's just like, there's so many. And now that we're working with the wormhole bridge, so we're going to begin working with a lot of these other layer ones that we're working with along with the wormhole team. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And if you had to pick like one token, like what would be like your highest conviction bet, like over the next few years, even like from the Polkadot ecosystem or whatever? Yeah.
From a staking point of view, DOT definitely. It's like, in my opinion, it's by far the best staking asset. And then yeah, there's a lot of other interesting things you can do with DOT and staking products. So we'll get into that, I think, later today.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. And who in the crypto industry do you really admire or look up to most?
Yeah, I was thinking about this recently. If I had to elect like a president of crypto, I think I would elect Caitlin Long. She's super impressive. I've seen her speak a couple times in person. Haven't met her yet, but yeah, I think Caitlin Long would be my pick.
All right, cool. That's a great one. So, what are your thoughts on DeFi and staking in general? Like in light of the recent bear market, you can say. Do you personally stake, or like how do you see the value proposition of staking?
Yeah, staking, it's pretty interesting. So recently with everything that's been going on, I think one thing that has really come to light is that in many ways, DeFi works a lot better than traditional financial systems. If you look at everything with like Celsius and Three Arrows, all the DeFi positions were either liquidated or paid off. So everything kind of worked as it was expected to work. So that's a really good sign for DeFi. The problem, and it's been a little bit difficult to watch the kind of mainstream world who doesn't really fully understand how everything in crypto works, think that because you had all these centralized finance entities like Celsius and Voyager and all these kind of go under, it made crypto and DeFi as a whole also kind of look bad. But what it really exposed is that CeFi, the BlockFis, Celsius of the world, they proved that there's product market fit for those type of products because most people in the world don't want to deal with the complexities of crypto. But what they also proved is that we need transparency of the books of these firms. So I think going forward, we're going to see a lot more shift to really good UX, same UX as Celsius and BlockFi provide today, but the back end is going to become a lot more transparent and built on public blockchains. So yeah, excited to see kind of how that shapes up over the next few years.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely a great vision. So I'm looking forward to that future as well. And like, what is an activity you do from the to relax from the wild crypto markets?
I'm a tennis player. I've played tennis since I was like 4 years old. I need to start playing more. But tennis would be one. Love going to the beach. Spend time kind of in some areas that there's beaches, hiking, stuff like that. And of course, travel. Travel is like my biggest passion. So I love crypto has been kind of allowing me to do that a little bit recently, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, I definitely love the beach too, and traveling is always something just to do in the mind, see new experiences and stuff. Cool. So, guys, today for a special episode of Staking Mondays, actually on Fridays, so Staking Fridays, what makes we'll talk about today what makes Acala different from like DAI and Frax and other stablecoins in the industry. We'll talk about Acala's adoption so far and the near-term growth drivers for Acala. We'll talk about liquid staking on Polkadot. We'll talk about like what it takes to launch an enterprise-grade liquid staking product, and generally like the latest changes in the Polkadot ecosystem. If you guys have any questions, just put them down in the comments on the YouTube here, and we will ask them in the end of the show. So yeah, just keep it coming. Anything that you would like to know about Polkadot, Acala, about liquid staking or anything like this, just drop it in the chat here, and we'll get to it later. So starting with some long form questions here for you, Dan. Can you give us like a brief summary of like Acala and like the key similarities, like because you have like two things, I would say, like you have the aUSD stablecoin and you have the liquid staking products like LDOT. So starting like starting with the stablecoin, let's say, like what would you say are like the key differences between like the DAI model, like MakerDAO on Ethereum and Acala aUSD on Polkadot? What are the key differences there?
Yeah. So I think I can start with a little bit of background on Acala and kind of how it was built. So we were one of the first teams to start building on Polkadot back when it was really just Substrate, which is the framework for building blockchains. And this is about 3.5 years ago. The Acala, the four co-founders of Acala came from the Ethereum ecosystem, trying to find a platform where they could really scale. So they evaluated Cosmos, Polkadot, ETH2, and decided to go with Polkadot because of how powerful Substrate is. Then looking at where Polkadot was going, which is this kind of multi-chain ecosystem of connected blockchains, currently that will scale up to 100 blockchains that are all kind of in the same world. And of course, for that to kind of flourish, that ecosystem needed financial infrastructure, which starts with a stablecoin. So they chose a model that was kind of like almost like if you want a comparison, like a multi-chain version of DAI. So the cool thing about aUSD and Substrate is that it's built native to the Polkadot ecosystem, meaning that it can be transferred to any other parachain connected to Polkadot without any bridges. So no bridge risk. So this is allowing every other parachain to kind of adopt aUSD as their default stablecoin. And really aUSD is becoming kind of the de facto stablecoin of the Polkadot ecosystem, as well as the Kusama ecosystem, which is more of the kind of experimental network. aUSD itself was the first product that we built around. And then what we were able to do is build an entire blockchain kind of around that and in support of that. So we have a liquid staking product that we'll get into. This was built to really unlock a lot of liquidity from the DOT ecosystem to allow this liquid asset to be used as collateral for minting aUSD. And then we also have a decentralized exchange built into our chain. And the primary purpose of this is to run efficient liquidations for the stablecoin to maintain kind of the health and solvency of that protocol. And then on top of our chain, we have an EVM environment that we call EVM Plus because we built it with Substrate and kind of combined these worlds of EVM and Substrate to make the EVM a lot more powerful using Substrate and all the kind of innovation that came with that. aUSD, a couple things that are a little bit different than DAI. So number one, the way that liquidations work, we have the luxury of launching after DAI, and a lot of the DeFi events and market events that have happened over the past few years. So we were able to learn from some of the things that have happened, including things like Black Thursday. A couple of years ago, there was a huge liquidation in the market that really gave DAI some trouble because liquidations weren't able to process due to all the network congestion that there was at the time during that major kind of correction in the market. So one thing we were able to do is improve the liquidation process. So with DAI, they're using these off-chain liquidators called makers or keepers, sorry. And these keepers were not able to get all those purchases in of those liquidations during that congested time. With aUSD, we have two paths that the protocol can take when running liquidation. So number one, it'll check our DEX. So every collateral asset that you can mint aUSD with has a deep liquidity pool on the DEX. So let's say it's DOT and you're minting aUSD with DOT. If there's a liquidation, the DOT will go to the DEX and look for a good price on the DEX. And then it will also check on-chain liquidation bots. So it'll actually compare these two prices and give the user the best price for their collateral. So that's one thing. The other aspect is oracles. So with oracles, we're able to prioritize oracle price feeds and guarantee that the oracle price will be in every block. So this makes sure that you don't have an issue with oracles not being able to get in a block due to congestion and then throwing off price feeds on the DEX for those liquidations. And then the last thing I think, so I know DAI transitioned from single collateral to multi-collateral. aUSD is multi-collateral kind of out of the box. So DOT, Liquid DOT, ACA, soon to be Bitcoin, ETH will be kind of collaterals backing the stablecoin. But in the end, aUSD and Acala are really kind of a credit facility for the whole kind of Polkadot ecosystem, and then probably soon beyond the Polkadot ecosystem as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack about Acala. It's crazy, actually, how many facets the protocol has, which is very fascinating, and also good to hear the backstory that like basically the liquid staking product LDOT was built out of a necessity to like to unlock DOC as a collateral for the platform, right? Like, can you walk us a little bit through the liquid staking protocol? Like how does this work, and what are the differences to like other liquid staking products like a Lido on Ethereum and others?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so liquid staking on Acala or LDOT works like this. So DOT natively is of course on Polkadot, which is the relay chain, kind of the core of Polkadot that connects and secures all the parachains that are connected to Polkadot. And then in order to stake DOT on the relay chain, you can use mobile wallets like Polka Wallet or Nova Wallet. And then on the browser, typically people have used Polkadot.js, which is a pretty like OG type of tool. You really got to know what you're doing. There's a couple of new ones. Talisman is great, and Sub Wallet is also great. And you can stake on Polkadot. It's just fine. It's actually one of the best staking assets in the industry, around 14%. The issue is that there's a few issues. So number one, your liquidity is locked up. So when you stake your DOT, it's kind of staked away, and that's about it. You're earning the staking rewards. There's a 28-day unbonding period. There's also an 80 DOT minimum, which can be preventative for a lot of people around the world. So that's a few things. So the reason why we built LDOT is because, first of all, we wanted to unlock a lot of that liquidity that right now is kind of just stuck there. When people are staking DOT, they can't do anything else with that DOT or earn kind of additional yield with that DOT. So when people want to stake on Acala, they're looking for a few things. So number one, obviously liquidity. So being able to stake their DOT and then earn in DeFi at the same time. Number two, instant unbonding. So there's a small fee that you can pay to basically get your DOT unstaked right away instead of waiting that 28 days. There's no minimum. So I think technically when you stake, there's a 5 DOT minimum, but if people don't have that, they can also just purchase LDOT on the DEX. So that's a few. And then the other thing is just general kind of rewards and yield. So with our protocol, and I'll explain more exactly how it works, but we're able, right now it's around 19 or 20% versus 14% on Polkadot. And it's because we're able to select higher quality validators charging lower fees. So taking less of the rewards from the users and allowing more of those rewards to flow on to the actual stakers. So the way the protocol actually works, users bring their DOT. Basically, it's a simple bridge. So you bridge from Polkadot relay chain to the Acala parachain. So you do have to kind of like make that move. And then once you're on Acala, you're where you need to be. So then right now, if you go to apps.acala.network, this is kind of our this is our front end to everything we've built kind of into the blockchain. There's a liquid staking tab, and it's pretty simple. You just go there, and it's essentially one-click staking. So you choose the amount of DOT you want to stake, you stake, and instead of your DOT being just locked away, and that's the end of the story, with this, you stake and you actually receive LDOT, which is kind of a receipt for the DOT that you had just staked. So the DOT is earning the 19 or so %, and then you get this LDOT token that you can then use in a variety of ways, in a growing amount of ways. So when that DOT, I'll just explain. So when that DOT is staked, this goes into a kind of almost like a meta pool of everyone on Acala who's staking their DOT. And then that DOT, using XCM or cross consensus messaging, this is like one of the most important things on Polkadot, which allows us to do cross-chain messaging between different chains. So Acala's protocol is able to stake that DOT from that pool back on the relay chain, which is where all the validators are. That's who's securing Polkadot and all the parachains, including Acala. So then there's certain teams who we work with directly. So Coinbase Cloud and Blockdaemon are two validators who are validating specifically for the Acala liquid staking protocol. And then there's the rest is kind of a just dependent on network statistics of the validator. So Polkadot has like a point system, uptime, how many slashes they've had, and so on. And this is how the rest of that validator set is chosen for who gets to kind of validate for the Acala protocol.
All right, so it's actually, yeah, like but like how much of that, so how much of that stake is going to like Coinbase Cloud and Blockdaemon, and how much of that are like other validators, or like how is that percentage determined?
It's evenly split amongst basically up to the amount that's in the pool at the time. I'd have to go check exactly how many there are at the moment. I think it's around 15 or 20. But that's just evenly split amongst those validators, because we didn't want to have any impact on like one validator getting too big, just getting all the stake from the Acala pool. So yeah, right now it's kind of distributed evenly. The other thing is there's potential for some kind of changes that are, I don't know if I can fully talk about this actually, but there's some changes we could do with how this is actually determined. So there's potential for being able to do some sort of like a voting system or community driven, like, hey, we're electing these validators to be validators for the liquid dot pool. So that's kind of how that works in general. The other thing to mention, and you mentioned Lido, I'm not exactly sure of their current kind of like tech stack and just setup, but one thing I know at one point it wasn't fully decentralized. With the Acala liquid dot staking, this is a fully trustless and decentralized protocol. There's no kind of like interaction or assets held by Acala or any entity. All the DOT that's staked on Acala goes directly into the LDOT protocol. Everything is on chain and then staked back on the Polkadot relay chain again, kind of trustlessly.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean the whole validator selection is like a super interesting topic that we've been thinking about a lot lately as well. It's like we just launched the verified provider program where we do like in-depth due diligence on staking providers, just to like help people finding like reliable staking providers and validators and so on. And yeah, I mean, I think this is a great initiative to have like a lot of validators there, and also keep thinking about like how to optimize the whole process. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like for the native level, like for the staking level on the protocol level, like so there's like an 80 dot minimum. There's 28 days lockup period and so on. Do you think there's a chance that like the core protocol developers will also like try to push for some kind of liquid staking product on the protocol level? Because obviously this is like it's a pretty high minimum and lockup period compared to other chains. Yeah.
I would have to say I doubt it. The Web3 Foundation research team are like the definition of gigabrains. They've kind of determined and engineered the entire Polkadot staking system, tokenomics, inflation, security, most importantly. I think one thing that Polkadot, the ecosystem needs to just keep this in mind at all times, that like what staking and what proof of stake is for ultimately is for securing Polkadot, securing the relay chain. So liquid staking, if done in a centralized manner or just in a way that takes advantage and tries to pull too much liquidity out, can have an impact on the security of Polkadot. So I think liquid staking at the protocol or at the Polkadot level is probably highly unlikely, but there's definitely going to be a lot of teams, ourselves included. I know that Bifrost, Parallel, there's several teams that are building liquid staking products already for DOT, and that will definitely continue to grow over time.
How do you think will the market share between liquid staking and like the native staking be like in like, let's say 5 years from now or something? Like will basically everyone stake with liquid staking products, or because then that ultimately means that like projects like what you just mentioned, Acala and everyone is basically like controlling like the validator set, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to predict. I know there's definitely like a good amount of DOT that will probably stay on Polkadot itself. Everything, just like with everything in crypto, I think it's all about like a portfolio mindset. Can see a lot of people probably using some of their portfolio in DOT, maybe some in LDOT, some in Tapio's T-Dot, which we can get into. Just because of varying levels of risk and things like that. Of course we have security number one, audits, multiple audits on everything that we launch, but just every time you're kind of introducing a new layer or a new product, there's just inherent protocol risk built into things. So I think over time we'll see liquid staking products grow in terms of their kind of piece of the pie overall and DOT staking. But just given like the amount of DOT on Polkadot that's also held from like Foundation, kind of early Polkadot founder, people like that, I can see that most likely staying more on the Polkadot side. But institutional investors, the interest in liquid staking is definitely growing. So as the institutional side grows, that's specifically going to go to Acala due to this alluvial integration that we're doing. That will probably continue to grow kind of the liquid staking side of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, we can go into that right away. The alluvial, like, so you recently joined forces basically with Alluvial Finance, which is the liquid staking solution from Coinbase and Figment. And you are working together with them for the Polkadot liquid staking, obviously. So what actually went into like making the LDOT or like the Polkadot liquid staking enterprise ready, basically, or like institutionally investable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically solving a few problems. So right now there's many institutions, and when we talk about institutions, we're talking about fintechs, exchanges, custody providers, banks, and then generally just enterprises who want access to liquid staking, not only for themselves, most likely not just for themselves, for all the millions of customers that are accessing their platform on their website or through their app. So one thing is a lot of these enterprises need to know who else is in this kind of pool of participants, liquid staking, and then also who are the validators. So KYC and AML is a requirement for many of these people, and with open decentralized liquid staking products, that doesn't qualify for their internal requirements or wherever whatever the requirements are in their jurisdiction. So KYC is one. Another is just reporting in general, being able to comply with local requirements for reporting. So what this allows these institutions to do is come in to a second instance of Acala's liquid staking protocol. So one, open decentralized liquid staking, this is already live. And then the cool thing about the way we built our tech stack is it's really flexible. So we were able to, or we are going to be able to create a second instance of our liquid staking protocol that is fully permissioned. So KYC AML to get in so that every institution knows who else is participating in this environment. So Alluvial, starting with Ethereum, they're working with a team called Kiln. Kiln is providing the tech for enabling ETH liquid staking over there. Then we're working with Alluvial. Acala is the technology provider for enabling institutional DOT staking in this ecosystem. And then they just also announced that they're working with Benki and blanking on the other entity, but for Avalanche liquid staking. So there's three currently. Their website's alluvial.finance. But yeah, like you said, this is a kind of a close collaboration. And the early validators for this will be Coinbase Cloud, Figment, and then Alluvial also has kind of a new and growing team as well. So yeah,
Awesome.
definitely been great working with them, and lots of potential here for sure.
No, definitely. Yeah, I think that's a great effort as well. Just to allow institutions to get into this space and also participate in staking overall, which makes a lot of sense, I think. And so yesterday you actually, or just recently, you launched the ACA staking program, where basically the network owners of the Acala network, the ACA token holders, can stake their token to get the ACI aUSD liquidity tokens. So can you walk us through that? How does this work? What is this initiative about? Because it's a limited initiative, right? For 3 months, if I understand correctly. And how does how do you see native single-sided native staking for ACA in the long term as well? What is your vision there for the token? In terms of sharing network rewards with the stakers or anything alike.
Yeah. So first of all, so ACA, of course, is the native token that kind of operates and powers Acala's blockchain, all of our protocols, and then of course is backing for our stablecoin as well. ACA also, so because we're built on Polkadot provides the proof of stake. And the nice thing is, as a parachain, you don't have to worry about proof of stake. You don't have to worry about building up a set of validators or securing your own blockchain. Polkadot handles all of that for you. So with Acala and with ACA, we basically launched Acala with a fixed supply, so non-inflationary supply. So it's capped at 1 billion ACA. So that, of course, poses a challenge to doing staking in the traditional sense, where Polkadot, for example, has inflation, which is helping to pay validators, to reward validators for their work, and also to reward stakers for helping to secure the chain. So on Acala, the supply is capped, just like Bitcoin. And what we are able to do then is kind of some interesting creative ways of still kind of engaging and rewarding ACA holders and stakers in this case. So we already did this once, and now this is the second ACA staking program. And because of the way Acala is built, the network itself is earning kind of fees and surplus. So part of this from the protocols like the DEX, the liquid staking protocol, stablecoin, and also DOT that is held by the Acala treasury itself. And there's a surplus that is kind of reached. And at this point, we've taken 200,000 US and basically used that surplus to buy back ACA just from the network itself, from the DEX. And then what we're doing with that that surplus, that ACA is interesting. So the first campaign we did, we directly distributed the ACA to ACA holders, or stakers in that case. In this campaign, we wanted to do it a little bit differently. So very similar, but instead of being rewarded directly with ACA, we're rewarding ACA stakers with an LP token. So ACA and aUSD LP token, which for people who are new to this, it's a liquidity provider token, which means here you have kind of a share in that pool on our DEX. So the ACA and aUSD pair, meaning that whenever someone or bots or institutions trade on that pair, aUSD for aUSD, you as an LP, a liquidity provider, earn fees from that trading activity. So the cool thing is with this way of rewarding our users, we convert basically ACA holders into Acala network users too. So they're becoming deeply integrated in Acala's kind of operation as a network. So this is a way of, so when you receive ACA aUSD rewards, you're receiving this LP position, which, like I said, you're earning trading fees, but then whenever the user did want to kind of get out of that LP position, that would be able to be redeemed for aUSD and ACA. So it's like a triple kind of 3-level reward for anyone participating in this kind of initiative. Yes, it's capped because, of course, I said there was that surplus was 200K, so that's being used for this campaign. And then in the future, the hope is to be able to integrate either more of these types of campaigns, or then even potentially staking kind of, it's called a pallet, but basically a staking functionality built into the chain that allows more of an ongoing kind of staking operation. But that all is still definitely kind of in progress.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's really cool. Also, like the experimentation with like just incentivizing ACA holders with like actual like like ACA, and get them involved with the network by also owning the liquidity tokens, earning transaction fees, and so on.
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. So earlier you mentioned like the T-Dot Tapio. Like, can you walk us through that a bit? Like, it is like basically like an aggregated liquid staking token of Polkadot for the Ethereum ecosystem, or like how can we understand this?
Yep. Yeah, almost. So like right now, the Ethereum ecosystem is dealing with the same issue that the Polkadot ecosystem had, which is several forms of ETH in this case, and DOT. So in Ethereum, you've got like Lido liquid staking, but other liquid staking protocols are coming up. So you've got like ETH, STETH, XETH, YETH, ZETH. There's all these different forms. So as a developer or as a DApp, if let's say you're Aave, you're a money market, and you're deciding which assets to stand up markets for and to incentivize. Do you want to incentivize XETH, YETH, ZETH, STETH, and regular ETH? No, you want to simplify and focus on one with the most liquidity and kind of the most usage. So Ethereum right now is talking about the need for this. The cool thing is that the Polkadot ecosystem already has this, and what the product is, it's a synthetic DOT. So ETH is working on a synthetic ETH to aggregate all these long tail forms of ETH into one. And then on the DOT side, the Tapio team, their website's tapioprotocol.io, pretty sure. Yeah. And Tapio is, they're by far one of the best developer teams in the whole Polkadot ecosystem. We luckily got to start working with them about a year ago. They built Tapio on Polkadot, which has several things. So stable swap pools for stablecoins, but also the synthetic DOT asset called T-Dot. So right now, the two assets that T-Dot is helping to kind of combine are regular DOT, so just DOT, and then LDOT, Acala's liquid DOT staking product. So when you put your DOT or LDOT into this pool, it says it's on the Acala app, so apps.acala.network. You go in, and then when you basically put your liquidity into this pool, it mints a T-Dot token that you have. So that T-Dot is super powerful because you're holding this token. It's a synthetic token that can be used or even collateralized or lent out on a money market. but the underlying pool, since there's an LDOT token in there that's earning yield from staking, that yield is then passed on to you as a T-Dot holder. The other thing is that since T-Dot is running that pool, the DOT and LDOT pool, you're also earning trading fees from that, almost like you're an LP. So T-Dot is going to be very soon probably the biggest and most important asset on Polkadot besides DOT itself, because as more and more teams create new liquid staking products or new liquid crowd loan products, which is kind of a very niche thing on Polkadot, there's going to be several different forms of DOT that need to be aggregated into one. So we've already talked to a lot of DApp teams, whether they're money markets or DEXs, and they absolutely love the idea of T-Dot because it solves this exact problem for them of just too many types of DOT. So yeah, I'd definitely take a look at Tapio, and T-Dot is definitely kind of on the rise right now.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really fascinating, and looking forward to follow the project more closely. Maybe can you walk us a little bit through like the Acala adoption numbers, like growth and adoption of like first aUSD and LDOT as well? Like, because obviously aUSD is supposed to be like the native stablecoin of the Polkadot ecosystem. Do you have any numbers like in terms of adoption rates, or like how much aUSD issuance do you have? Like, is there, and like where does this live? And also same for LDOT, obviously.
Yep. Yeah, so as it stands today, so Acala in general, we're sitting at TVL wise, so I'm looking at my stats page, but 430 million TVL. For aUSD, right now, we ourselves, so on Acala, we have our DEX, and then there's some stable swap pools, and then there's just barely beginning to be DEXs on other chains like Moonbeam and A-Star that are beginning to incorporate aUSD. We're still in kind of a building phase right now with the way that Polkadot works. Not only do we have to wait for other teams to launch, but we also have to build these kind of like cross-chain connections, allowing the token transfers to happen. And then there's a lot of BD work that goes into meeting with and talking to all these DApp teams and on all these parachains and getting these integrations going. So for aUSD, we're still just a couple months into aUSD's kind of lifetime. So the stablecoin TVL right now is sitting at 80 million. Total issuance, we're sitting at, where is that? I think it's right now around 8 or 9 million. It's being minted on Acala and then also on Karura, which is our Kusama-based parachain. So the cool thing about aUSD is it's like kind of natively mintable on two different relay chains or two different kind of multi-chain ecosystems. And then the wormhole bridge is actually bridging those two together. So that will allow aUSD to be minted on Karura, for example, and then moved over to Acala to, for example, like pay off a CDP loan or even to use on a money market on the Polkadot side. So this is all kind of what we've been up to the last 6 months, is like really just low level infrastructure building. And then of course,
that's the bridge between Kusama and Polkadot, basically, right?
Basically, yeah. It's from our two parachains to each other, but then that would just have one hop to anywhere else on Polkadot or Kusama. And then right now, let's see, liquid staking. There's 60 million in LDOT liquidity right now on Acala, and then 200 million in liquid crowd loan DOT, which is kind of a liquid form for crowd loans, which it would take 10, 15 more minutes to explain that. But basically, it's like how you launch on Polkadot. So that's left over from when we did that last year.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's really impressive already, I would say. So what do you think is the competition like for the liquid staking and stable coins in the Polkadot ecosystem? And like how do you differentiate yourself, and like what makes you confident that Acala is the best solution?
Mm-hmm. So competition. So on Polkadot, there's no other Polkadot native stablecoin. So when I say that, I mean it's built with Substrate, which is what all the low-level tech on Polkadot's built with. So aUSD, we're working with all the other parachains, and everyone's integrating with aUSD because it's native to Polkadot. It can be transferred anywhere without a bridge. It's also decentralized and censorship resistant because it's backed by decentralized crypto assets, not fiat backed assets at the moment. And then at the EVM level, so on some of these parachains, including Acala, there's also going to be some stablecoins that have launched at the EVM level. The difference between that and aUSD is that it's not native to Polkadot, so there's always going to be some sort of like wrapper or some risk involved with that asset moving it from chain to chain. So aUSD will very likely be used as collateral for a lot of these application layer or EVM type of stable coins. But aUSD at its core will definitely be kind of the default stable coin for all these Polkadot and Kusama parachains. For liquid staking, I think there's going to continue to be more and more liquid staking options in the Polkadot ecosystem. It all comes down to just evaluating like how decentralized is it trustless, or is the protocol or team actually custodying those assets, which is a big red flag. And then the other aspect is just taking a look at like the trust profile. So I think for us, it was a positive sign that like Coinbase and Figment came to us and said like, hey, we'd like to build this institutional product with your technology. So that was a good signal to all of our users who were looking at LDOT for another kind of nudge of confidence in the LDOT protocol. So.
All right. Yeah. Are you afraid of like considering that like all the collateral for aUSD is like only crypto and like still limited to like just a few assets at least right now, right? Like DOT, ACA, and so on. Like because obviously like the aUSD is only worth as much as the underlying collateral. So whenever there's any like sharp price drops in like DOT, for example, or like if like the overall, like, do you think that's a concern? There's a risk to it, having like only crypto collateral, or like, are you considering to like move to like fiat denominated collateral as well, or any other like real world assets or whatever?
Yeah, it's still a little early for real world assets. Of course, we're thinking about it and researching it. As far as the other, it's always a trade-off. So Frax and DAI are essentially wrapped USDC at this point. I think DAI is like well over 50% USDC. So at that point, you kind of lose your censorship resistance and decentralization because you're really tied to whatever happens to USDC. But as a over collateralized stablecoin like DAI and like aUSD, working with real world assets, fiat backed assets, of course, does allow you to grow a little bit faster. So there is a trade off there. One thing that we just started, which is really cool, is a second way to essentially mint aUSD. So the first one is the CDPs, or collateralized debt positions, where you need to over collateralize and then you can mint aUSD. We just started the second method for minting aUSD, which is called IADS, or Interprotocol aUSD Distribution Scheme. It's kind of a mouthful, but that allows us. It's only for the protocol, not for users, but plenty of benefits for users. So what it allows us to do is mint aUSD directly from the stablecoin protocol into another protocol. So in this case, a 3-pool that was built by the Tapio team. It's a USDC, USDT, and aUSD 3-pool. And then what happens is the aUSD is minted without a CDP, but then that 3-pool, when you go into the 3-pool, you get a 3 USD LP token, which then goes back on the books for Acala as backing for what was minted that way. So this allows us to increase liquidity for aUSD overall, just by giving another kind of growth driver, which then reduces slippage and fees for users. It also helps us to improve kind of the on-off ramps for aUSD, because a lot of people are on-off ramping via USDC or USDT, given all those kind of existing options. And then, of course, overall, this will continue to grow into new protocols. So various protocols across Polkadot and Kusama can become essentially aUSD distributors, where they're using IADs to get direct minting into their protocol, if they pass all the, of course, like security checks and making sure that everything is fine on the risk side. So
awesome. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. So, like, there's been a lot going on in the overall Polkadot ecosystem recently. Like a lot of changes, new projects, and so on. Like, can you maybe walk us a little bit through from your perspective, because you have like very deep insights into the whole Polkadot ecosystem, obviously. Like, what are the most exciting things that you're looking forward to that are going to come to the Polkadot ecosystem overall in the coming months and years?
yep. Yeah, so the Polkadot as a whole is kind of making a bet on application-specific blockchains that are built, of course, for specific use cases. So Acala, of course, we've customized our chain for DeFi, but there's a huge variety of chains. If you, there's sometime, I think once a month, Polkadot's doing a community Twitter space. It's very interesting to join because you just see how diverse all the teams are. I know there's teams doing things like trustless Bitcoin. So Interlay is one that I'm super excited about. We're about to get iBTC, their trustless BTC product, onto Acala, which the goal is to get that to become a collateral for minting aUSD. There's teams doing identity. There's more general EVM chains. The A-Star team and Moonbeam team are also some of our closest kind of partners or collaborators. So they're doing a great job. There's more specific chains. So Acala, of course, has a whole kind of EVM environment built on top. So we're like a kind of an ecosystem play in addition to all the credit facility. But there's other chains like HydraDX and Mangata who are focusing on building one very good parachain for a DEX or an AMM. So those are a couple other teams that we're working with. There's Manta and Fala doing privacy, Remark doing super interesting NFT type of tech. Centrifuge, of course, they came from the Ethereum ecosystem. They're doing real world assets. So I could go on and on. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on, and right now it's a lot of just behind the scenes kind of building and developing.
Awesome. Yeah. How do you, I know there was also like a comment here. Like, how do you see Polkadot compared to Cosmos at the moment? Obviously both are like ecosystems that have a strong bet on like app chains and like shared security. So and yeah, I mean, you mentioned like the Acala founders also like kind of evaluated that when they started building on Polkadot and so on. Like, what is your take on this, and how do you see the competition kind of between Polkadot and Cosmos ecosystem?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're these two ecosystems are definitely similar in terms of ethos and kind of where we see the future going. They're definitely built a little bit differently. I think one major difference is that Polkadot has true shared security. We all get our security from Polkadot, and we created the word shared security. We don't have validators for any of our parachains, and none of the parachains have to spend any time or effort in building up validator sets. The other thing that does is all of our security is provided by Polkadot. So Polkadot will always have this, multi-billion dollar security that protects all of us. We don't need to worry about lack of security on one chain that we're connected to. Cosmos, over the past year or so, has been trying to kind of meme the shared security kind of word into their ecosystem, but that's not, they don't have shared security. They have to build up their own validators for every single Cosmos chain that's built with the Cosmos SDK. Of course, there's benefits and trade-offs to both, but on the Cosmos side, they're more susceptible to risks of security if one chain has weak security. So when they use IBC, they're basically only as strong as the weakest link in the chain. So when Terra went down, there was a huge risk to other teams that had deep integrations with UST and with Terra. Versus on Polkadot, like I said, all the security comes from Polkadot itself versus everyone having to secure themselves. But with that being said, I think there's a lot of work being done in the Cosmos ecosystem to move more towards a shared security model. And they're definitely also like some of the best devs in the ecosystem. So we're working with from the Polkadot ecosystem in general, teams like Wormhole, Acala, Nomad, helping to connect the two kind of ecosystems together. Recently, I know Osmosis and Moonbeam started working together to get DOT onto Osmosis as a tradable kind of asset on their ecosystem. And then, of course, I'm sure Osmosis and Cosmos assets will start flowing over to the Polkadot side. And then Acala as well, via Wormhole, very soon beginning to work with a lot of these other ecosystems that we've connected to via Wormhole. So
awesome. Yeah, no, like, yeah, I think that's very, very exciting, especially like there can be a lot of collaboration between the ecosystems as well. It doesn't need to be necessarily just competition in a sense.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense, I think. As a last question before we go into the community questions, also like guys, please ask questions. We will still address them in a bit. We have a little bit of time left. So just before we go into that, like, what do you think are to your understanding, what are the best yield opportunities on aUSD at the moment in the Polkadot ecosystem?
So the best yield in the whole Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem right now is on the 3 pool on it's called Taiga. So I didn't mention that because I didn't want to add confusion, but Taiga is basically the Tapio 3 pool, but on the Kusama side. This is built on Karura. So at apps.karura.network, there's a 3 pool for aUSD, USDT, and USDC. This is currently the best possible place to use aUSD. There's also another, there's a lot of stuff coming. So in the Acala EVM, there's a team called Pike that is launching. They're building a kind of a native money market, plus a lot of other DOT staking products and self-paying loans. They're going to be launching very soon, which is going to be one of the best places to use aUSD by lending aUSD. And then, of course, other teams. So in the A-Star ecosystem, Moonbeam ecosystem, Hydra DX just integrated with aUSD. So lots coming as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. So yeah, check that out, guys, in the whoever's watching, holding some aUSD. Let's jump into the community questions for today. We had some from Twitter earlier. And this is actually very interesting because we talked about the mainstream UX that is like very kind of easy to use, like Celsius and so on, like all these CeFi apps kind of. Like, what does it take for Acala to become like a mainstream DeFi app with, like, let's say, CeFi like UX?
Yeah. So this is one of our main focuses. Is of course aUSD and LDOT are a huge focus and crypto native stuff, but our other kind of focus is on this blend between real world and blockchain or DeFi kind of on the back end. So Acala will never be a front end UX like BlockFi or Celsius. We're technology providers. We're back end infrastructure. So Acala, one example of this is we're working with current.com. They're a fintech in New York with 4 million customers, and we're building a DeFi backend to provide yield to their customers that are using their checking account or savings account on their app from the iPhone or from the Apple Store or Android, of course. These are users that are already used to that experience, getting their paychecks there and using that for their checking account. But then very soon, Current will introduce crypto products And then those crypto products, some of them will be, of course, integrated with Acala products as well as teams building on top of Acala. So for DeFi teams that are looking to have kind of major access to institutional use, I think building on Acala makes a lot of sense because we'll be plugging in a lot of institutions through our open protocols and also through this whole permission DeFi tech stack that we're going to be standing up pretty soon.
All right, nice. Yeah. So, like, there was also another question that is like very similar. Like, what are the biggest UX updates for Acala like coming up in the next few months? Like maybe some, and like, will I be able to interact with Acala from my Ledger wallet anytime soon?
Yeah. So this hasn't been. I was actually going to announce this today. So haven't done the announcement yet. But Ledger, it's not fully ready yet, but luckily the dev mode is at least ready. So we're getting closer. It's been a pain for us and everyone else kind of in the ecosystem. So I'm really excited to start getting that closer to fully live. But at least I saw people tweeting about it yesterday with pictures of their Ledger. Definitely working on the dev mode for people who are kind of more advanced. And then what was the other question?
Generally, like the biggest UX updates for
Yeah.
Acala. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been working a lot on this internally. Josh on our team has been working with Lawrence, who's done a lot of our product work, and they're making a ton of improvements to our apps. Of course, we have two parts. We have two kind of sets of engineers at Acala because we do a lot. We do substrate protocol layer stuff, and we also have our own like front end apps, of course. So one of the things that has been definitely a need is improved, I guess, dashboards or reporting or stats of like, okay, how is my liquid staking doing? What am I earning, daily or weekly? Because people like to see that, and the app hasn't had that to a big enough extent as of late. But we're making a lot of updates right now to exactly this. So the way that people can check their statistics on their liquid dot staking. Another thing is making it. We want to make it easier for people to go into the T dot product that I mentioned, because the best possible path is dot to L dot to T dot, because you can basically T dot, the more L dot that's in the T dot pool, the higher the yield that the T dot asset itself gets. So we're trying to make it easier so that people don't have to figure out like all these different steps. So when someone is going to stake, there will be an option to just basically tick a toggle or check a box basically to go directly into T dot and mint that synthetic form of dot. So these are a couple. Yeah, I guess those are the two kind of biggest things coming is like LDOT user experience improvements, statistics and dashboards, and then T dot kind of more deeply integrated into the apps.
Awesome. Yeah, really cool. Looking forward to this. And like we have one last question here from Abhishek. In your opinion, is this the only future for stablecoins, or is there a future way where we fully break the tie to fiat? So like, do stablecoins need to be denominated in USD, or can there be like a crypto native denomination, or like, yeah, anything like this?
Yeah, I don't know. These are kind of mind benders. I don't know. I don't think I'm smart enough to figure that out over the next, the 20 plus year time horizon. But I don't know. You kind of have to look at like product market fit. Like look at the stable coins right now that have the most adoption and the most use. It's USDC and USDT. That tells me it's very obvious that the most demand is for the US dollar backed stable coins. If you look at the whole world too, outside of crypto, the reserve currency is still the dollar, despite this whole recession that we're in and all of these kind of like just all the madness going on right now in the world, and all these different aspects. The dollar is still strengthening somehow against all these other currencies. The Russian ruble has this crazy effect right now because of gas and oil, but the dollar is still kind of the asset that everything in the world is quoted in. So it's going to take a long time for there to be a need for something that's not tied to the dollar. And if and when that does happen, I don't know what that will look like and what that will be called or what that will be kind of tied to. But people have tried this, of course, in crypto. But at the end of the day, everyone just thinks in dollars for now. So
Right.
we'll have to see where that goes.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the US is still like one of the biggest economies in the world. So it just makes a lot of sense as well. And I guess as long as the crypto economy is not getting bigger than the US economy, it's maybe hard to like introduce like a crypto native stablecoin in that sense. But yeah, it won't be a long path until then, because crypto is moving very fast, and we have so many exciting things going on. We discussed a lot of great things today around Acala and like aUSD, LDOT, and everything. So I'm really grateful to have you on the show. Dan, thank you so much. Is there like anything like you would like to mention? Like how can our listeners follow you? How can they stay up to date with Acala and everything that's going on for LDOT and aUSD?
Yep. A few ways. So our Twitter is probably our most active channel. So that's at Acala Network, ACALA. And then, if you go to our website, you can definitely learn a lot more about like aUSD and all of our different products. We have a newsletter, sign up there if you're interested in kind of the bigger announcements that come out less frequently. And then, I'm on Twitter, kind of talking a lot about Acala and Polkadot. Just if you just search my name. And feel free to ask questions. We have a very active Discord. So if people are interested in asking questions, come there, ask on Twitter. But I really appreciate the time. This has been fun talking about all this stuff.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you everyone for watching. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. Check out previous episodes and just comment below, like if you like this kind of content, if you have any suggestions or anything, just let us know, and let us know like who you would like to see next on the show. And until then, for everyone, I'm Mirko. Happy staking, and we see each other soon.